So I put a 420 big block along with a GoPowerSports 40 series torque converter on the Coleman CT200U-EX, and this thing is a wheelie machine. Even stock, well, stock other than a header pipe and a air filter. So this bike did 0 to 30 in 2.69 seconds without even trying, and then 60 miles an hour. So to take this bike to the next level, to make it quicker and faster, I'm gonna add this GoPowerSports Stage 2 kit. So the kit comes with your side cover gasket, then an ARC billet flywheel, and an ARC billet rod, and then a 308 cam with the dual valve springs. And then while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and install this PZ30 slide carb, along with an air filter and an intake. So I think the GoPowerSports kit is geared more towards a Predator 420, and this 420 is just a random engine I picked up off the internet. I was trying to do a budget build, so it'll be interesting to see if the GoPowerSports kit is compatible with the internal parts of this engine. So I think it might be just as easy to do the governor here on the bike instead of taking off the engine. Do another quick oil change. Got bearing balance shaft, and you got the bearings on the side cover side, and it's going to be an easy governor removal because the governor wheel's on the side cover itself. I can pull off these rocker arms. Push rods. Let's see if this 308 cam, we'll see if the main size is the same size to fit in here. Oh, perfect. So that's a good sign. So this cam has the same size mains. Let's see if this shaft size is the same for this ARC flywheel. Oh yeah, this thing's gonna bolt right on there. So I think this thing's very similar to a Predator 420. Nice. Now I'll figure out what size bolt to plug that with. No need for this low oil sensor in here. So far, everything looks like it'll drop right in. I'll pull this rod cap off here and we'll see if the crank journal is the same size. Oh, bearing came out with it. So on this front governor hole here, it's the same as a small block. So I'm using a 7/16 by 14 tap. And then on the top hole, I'm using my 3/8 by 16 tap. Throw some red Loctite on my bolt here. And now do the same on the front. When you look in there, that bolt sticks out quite a bit. I don't need that much in there, but let's see if it'll clear. There's a lot of room in there. So now I will see if this rod will fit in here. Okay, let's compare this rod to the ARC. So let me measure these and we'll see if the wrist pins are the same size. Okay. Well, it's the same size, so that'll work. So now let me check out the crank journal. Throw these rod bearings down in here, get these things centered. Okay, bolt this to the crank. So I'll throw my small piece of plastic gauge on here, across the crank journal there, and then I'll torque the rod down, and we'll see if we get between 2 and 4 thousandths. Per ARC instructions, we torque this to 16 foot-pounds, and then we alternate back and forth by 4 foot-pounds each side until we reach 26. Then we back off the bolts back to 16 and then re-torque again, alternating 4 foot-pounds a side until we get back to 26. And then we remove the rod cap, and we're looking for around 3 thousandths. So let's see if we have anywhere near 3 thousandths. And it looks like it. I think this thing's gonna work. And we are right at 3 thousandths. So this thing is perfect. So it has the same crank journal and the same wrist pin as a Predator 420. Pretty much everything in this engine is a Predator 420. So that'll work. So I'll oil this stuff up and we'll drop that rod in there. Yeah, that is awesome that everything fits. So there's that clip. Torque these down to 26 foot-pounds. So I will throw this cam in here and we'll see if we have any clearance issues. Before I pop the side cover on here, you need to pop that little clip out of there and pull off this wheel here. So you gotta kind of get a screwdriver under here, something to pop off this little pin or clip. There it is. Holds that wheel on. Okay, so there's that. Gotta be sure to pull all the washers off of here. Seems like we have some clearance issues. When we come around here, it hits right there. Well, this looks like an easy fix. If you look right there, the oil dipper or oil splasher is hitting the shaft on the balancing shaft, which looks like an easy fix. So I'll just pull that out of there and grind that a little bit, and I think I clear this up. Everything else looks like it has plenty of clearance. So it's just that balance shaft. Yeah, you can see right there on the shaft. It needs to be ground off. So I ground off a little right there. We'll see if that does it. And it looks like it did it. There we go. Oh yeah, you can see it clear down in there now. Pull this cam out, throw some lifters in here, and button this up. Put a little valve grinding compound on here. Right, that looks pretty good. One thing I noticed about these wheels, this stock flywheel is, I don't know, like twice as heavy as this ARC wheel. This thing is much lighter. So that ought to make that thing a little bit more snappy. I think I'll set this coil gap to about 60. So one thing that is different on this engine is it doesn't have a Hemi style head like a Predator 420. So the kit comes with dual valve springs for the Hemi head And this engine with the standard style head has the slip-on retainers, so I'm not sure how much spring pressure those slip-on retainers can take. But one good thing about it is the valve train is probably a little bit lighter on a standard head versus a Hemi head. I mean, because the rocker arms are smaller and lighter, and the push rods are generally shorter. So I don't think I'll need the dual valve springs to control valve float anyway on this engine. And another cool thing about it is the bike has a 40 sprocket. So generally the RPMs stay pretty low on this bike anyway. So until I get some valves with some automotive style retainers for this engine, I think I'll just use the single valve spring that comes in the kit. And I think that'll control the valve float on this setup. I mean, these are pretty stiff. So I'll see if I can pull one of these stock springs out of here. But first, I'm gonna fill this combustion chamber with string so I don't drop a valve down into the cylinder and then end up having to pull the head off. And turn this flywheel so I can lock the spring up against those valves. Pop one of these out of here. Hopefully, these are pretty tough. Well, they're easy to pop out, but it'll be interesting to see if I can get one back in. So the spring on the left is the stock spring, and then the spring on the right is the one that came in the kit. And the one on the right is definitely a lot more stiff, so that should help it out. But hopefully not too stiff for the slip-on retainers, but we'll find out. Now I'll see if I can get this in here. These things are stiff, man. So I got one on there, and these things are stiff, and they're hard on your thumbs. So on this next one, I'm gonna use my little homemade valve compressor, or valve spring compressor tool. You just bolt it on the stud here, and it pushes down on the valve spring. And it'll make it a lot easier on my thumbs. So it's easy enough popping them out because the springs are weaker on the stock ones, but it's putting them back in. So there's your aftermarket spring, and it is tough trying to get it in there. So my little tool here will push it on there. What's cool about it, you can see through the tool there and line up the hole. So there it is, it already popped in the hole. It's in that easy without having to wear your thumbs out. My lash cap back on there. All right, there we go. So this cam card is showing valve lash at 3 thousandths. So this is looking good. So even though the springs are designed for a Hemi head, there's still no coil bind. So now on this carb, I have to make sure, just like on a BM22, that I get this intake aligned here with this O-ring so I don't end up with an air leak or vacuum leak. Oh, look at that perfect alignment down in there. So that thing sure is not gonna leak. So that thing turned out pretty sweet. Oh, the kit also comes with this Autolite racing plug. So on this PZ30 carb, I have no idea what jets are in this thing, so we'll see if it'll fire up. So before I go out for a ride, I figured I would check to see what main jet is in this thing, and it has a very small main jet. So the PZ30 came with a 104 main jet, so that is way too small. So I gotta see if I can find a bigger main jet for this thing. Figure while I'm here, might as well check the pilot. So it has a 40 pilot. So I have a 50 pilot to throw in there, so that should get a little closer. And then I have a 140 main, which I don't know if it's big enough, but it's still closer than it was. From a 104 to a 140. You can tell this thing has a lot more mid-range torque than it did before. Let me run it down the street here. We'll see what kind of top speed it has. With a 140 main, not sure if that's enough. We'll find out. That moves out pretty good, even with a 140 main. Almost hit 65 miles an hour right there. See if I can keep the front end down. Maybe I can do a 0 to 30. Maybe. It made a big difference on the mid-range. The way it pulls from like 30 miles an hour to say 60, it just pulls like a freight train. 420 with the Stage 2 kit. And I'll just roll into it easy. There's 30 right there. This thing knocks out 30 like nothing. It's like an electric bike. First one was 2.83 and I just totally rolled into it. Let's see if I can do it again. Yeah, I just barely rolled into it and it's in the 2-second range. Alright, second attempt. Oh. It just totally lifts the front. It's so hard to launch this thing. It needs like a juggernaut where it's smoother taking off, where it doesn't transition power so abruptly. It's just like instant. Now let's try it again. There's 30. Man, that thing is quick. 2.58. It already beat it by a tenth, and that was just totally rolling into it. So we did 2.69 with just the torque converter and a stock 420 and 60.21. Then I added the Stage 2 and we dropped to 2.58 and then 65 miles an hour. I could easily get this bike into the 1 second range from 0 to 30 if I could just launch it. Or if it had like a juggernaut driver, something that would transition power just a little bit slower and smoother, and then it definitely has some more top speed in it. You can feel a 140 main is just a little bit too small on the top. It's running just a little bit lean. So if I add a 150 or a 160 main, this thing will definitely pick up some mile an hour. So GoPowerSports has the same kit, but with a 275 cam. So I'm interested to see what that setup would do. Maybe I need to get another 420.